Alright, Marvel Rivals players, let's talk about it. Why is this game dying? What's going on? A lot of people within the past week have been talking about like what's happening with Marvel Rivals. Why are people quitting the game? And it all kind of started honestly with Ninja saying that he was going to stop playing the game, and a lot of people were giving their 2 cents, and I could definitely tell you that there's a lot less interest in the game versus when it started. That is definitely a fact. Like, you know, sometimes people say the game's dying, but they're just kind of tired of the game. But in the reality, you can see that there's this article talking about dropping by over 50%. That's a pretty massive cut over there. There's also, you know, job layoffs that happens all the time with video games. But at the same time, the proof is undeniable when we look at, like, let's say Steam charts. Now, this doesn't cover all of the people that are playing on Epic Games or console, but there is usually a direct correlation when people are leaving the game via Steam charts versus other platforms as well. You can see the peak. We had 642,000, and now we don't even have a sixth of that. Again, we have less than 100,000 people as of today playing the game as of me recording this video. But you can see the main problem that I see with this is that we are losing players every single month. Every single month we're losing players. That's bad. Now, when there is a new season for a lot of video games, people do come back to check them out. But the main problem is that we are still losing massive amount of players over the course of time. That's no good, obviously. Now, I do want to address something really quick at the start, because usually video games, they hit a peak within the first like month or two, and it's really hard to recover from that, and a lot of people will see that as the game is dead or dying. Now, for the most part, almost every video game will pretty much die off, unless you're Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike and Dota, those games are going to be living on pretty much for eternity. Same thing with like League of Legends. But a lot of times when there's a brand new free-to-play game, people check it out and they leave, right? It's going to happen with like Splitgate as well. People are going to check out the game and they're just going to leave, and they will never come back. And that is definitely something that I see with Marvel Rivals, especially because there's a lot of people that may not really play a lot of these hero games and like, oh, my favorite character is like Iron Man. I get to play Iron Man. And they go play it and they're like, okay, whatever, I played the game. They're done with it. You know, they had their, 50 to 100 hours and they're done. They uninstalled the game, whatever the case may be. That's fine. These players are never going to be coming back. But why are players that were still playing the game, why are they leaving? I wanted to kind of tackle this as the main issue and give you guys my 2 cents with this. Now, I want to start off the video by saying you can still get a game. It is not dead. I used to play a lot of dead games where like you would queue up for hours at the higher ranks and you would just never get a game. It was impossible to play certain game modes. Maybe if you've played Halo or Call of Duty, certain game modes, you just could not get a lobby for whatever reason because, again, there's not enough players. That mode in the game is dead. Or certain video games, especially if you've ever played like Xbox Connect on old games, yeah, you can't get a game because it's dead. The game is not dead. I still like the game and I do want this game to be successful, and I'm still partnered with them. So like I have all the incentives to make this video in terms of giving them good feedback and also give you guys my 2 cents on it, because I hear this kind of frequently in the Marvel Rivals community that this game is dying, and I want to kind of give them some feedback and ideas on maybe what they can try to improve upon. I also want to mention that the queue times aren't even bad. I have multiple accounts in the top 1% of the player base. So again, this is a very small percentage of the player base, and that's also playing ranked. 99% of the time I'm almost always playing ranked. Whereas like it only takes like 3 to 4 minutes to fill the lobbies, whereas Overwatch genuinely takes like 3 to 7 minutes to fill a lobby, even at the lower ranks of the game. Like in the new stadium mode, since I haven't played there, I'm unranked. And I want to say that there is a huge difference in the queue times. Even though like Overwatch is kind of making a comeback, I would say that it still takes a longer queue time in Overwatch than this game. I think that in general, gamers just kind of move on a little bit faster. But overall, again, I want to let you guys know, I want to give them good feedback because I want this game to be successful. I play a lot of Marvel Rivals. I actually peaked, and I actually played even like the alphas and betas. I've been playing this game for a really long time. We peaked at top 201 and the top 500. I actually play a lot of Overwatch as well. Like I've been GM in all roles, so I like the game from a competitive aspect, but I think that in general, a lot of casual players, they go in and they go out. But I think competitive is kind of what keeps a lot of people interested in games. They have something to grind. But I think that there is a huge difference between Overwatch and this game for like competitive quality of matchmaking, which is something I want to talk about. Also, another thing that's really annoying is like there's this thing That's called the Rivals Tracker. There's a lot of different versions of it, but at the high ranks of the game, a lot of people use and abuse this. This is I would say this is straight up cheating, okay? So what this is it lets you check someone's stats and then find out what the win rate for their player is. And you could basically go in and find out, oh, this person mains this character. Okay, the win rate or like the, highest percentage, these are the characters that they play, and then they just ban them. Whereas Overwatch, they recently just added that whole ban system into the game, which is interesting because I actually think that Marvel Rivals actually made Overwatch a better game. But that's a video for another topic. But I think that in general, these tools should absolutely be deleted from the game. Another problem that I see in the game as you start climbing up in the ranks, if we look at GM Plus over here, in terms of like the characters that get banned, right? Let's say they're a Storm main. That means 50% of the games that you play, you ain't playing Storm. How does that feel for a player that like likes to play competitive, but their favorite character and the player that they actually play is Storm? And when you have these tools, they can just detect, oh, he's a Storm player, oh, easy, ban. As I have actually climbed unranked to GM, actually twice, on playing Storm, I like the character a lot. And the reason why is, well, the character is fun to play for me. And the whole goal of a video game in general, unless you're practicing for tournaments, you're really just here to have fun, right?
Fun.
And if, again, your main character, and you can see is banned in this game too, but I'll be honest, I think Iron Man's better. But the thing is that the ban rate on Storm is so high, or very specific characters. Even though this doesn't actually show Groot having a high ban rate, Groot is banned like pretty much most of the games too. That's another character. If you have your favorite character and you can't play it, are you going to be having fun? It's going to make it worse for not only you, but the rest of your teammates as well, which I kind of want to talk about, like EOMM. This is a pretty big issue as well, where like you can see in this set of games, these are all like in a row, by the way. I took 2 screenshots to merge them here, but you can see that in these games over here, EOMM is terribly like obvious at some point in the game. And I think it has to also do with how often that you're playing the game. And I think this is actually the biggest offender. Like, how do I win 5 games and then lose 5 games, but I'm SVP on almost every single game that I lost? And I really feel like it does definitely show. And there's no doubt that EOMM exists in many games, but I feel like with this game, there comes to a point where like if you're losing too much, like a lot of people have the mindset of get off because the game will then learn. It's not something that you want to do. But what I find really interesting is that like since I was winning a bunch, they gave me just unwinnable games. That's at least how it felt like when like people didn't want to play certain roles. Like I was forced to play support, and I've backfilled to top 500. But at the same time, I want to say that it's very hard, especially as certain roles, to feel like you're doing anything in the game as far as impactfulness compared to DPS, which is a topic I want to talk about. But like in this scenario, after I won a bunch, it gave me games where it's putting me with the worst players, and then obviously I'm not going to perform really well because you're giving me the worst players on my teammate, but I get SVP and I still take the L. That feels bad, right? And then like, oh, like okay, we gave you 5 losses after 5 wins. Okay, we'll give them 5 more, like, wins. It just is so evident sometimes. And like the thing is that like I've played before. You can see this is another account over here where we just went from well, we lost 1 game technically on our path over here up until Celestial, which is definitely pretty high. This is in the top, like usually in the Celestial's in the top 1%, unless we're in like the early stages of ranked. And like GM is like in the top 1% in the earlier stages because like there's really good players that were in top 500 that maybe haven't played in a while on that account and then get pushed back to like platinum and gold. Like it's absolutely crazy with rank deflation and inflation. But in general, I even had like screenshots of I've been doing good every single game. And I really want to say, as you put more time into this game, it seems like in terms of like hours per like time session played, that it starts giving you more losses. And the reason why, they're like, well, if this guy's just okay with losing, we'll just throw him more losses than wins, even though he's like doing fantastic majority of the game. And a lot of times it's not even that like I'm doing super good on every single like game and we're still losing, because if you're playing certain roles, like if we have people that 5 DPS lock in, right, and this happens very common, even up until like diamond / like lower GM, this happens quite often where like there's just no one that wants to play tank or support, which is another issue with the game. And then you log in and play, and then you're forced to backfill, and then like, oh, you went 8 and 6, you played support. Like it just feels bad in general as certain roles. But I want to go ahead and tackle a lot of these things. So the last thing is actually what I feel like is the most important for this video. So first off, I want to start off with why people are leaving. The main reason why majority of players leave in any video game is in the very beginning of a new game, people play it and they leave and they're never coming back. This is just a player base that just exists in a lot of games, especially with mobile games. Crystal of Atlan came out. I played it for a day. There's going to be games like, Game of Thrones games, although I might play the game a little bit more, but a lot of video games that come out, we play them and then that's it. Especially with free to play, this is a kind of like a big issue, or any like single player based games, this is definitely a thing. Another thing that I think is really bad in the game is the toxic players in this game it's a topic that a lot of people talk about in like Overwatch and stuff. It's like a lot of the kind of the same generic, like, oh, Doomfist players, Ball players, Moira players, they're all kind of like grouped up in the same area. Jeff players in this sort of a game, right, are Spider-Man or Black Panther players. They're all like, they have this like negative stigma where like you get them on your team and if they don't perform well, everyone's just kind of like hostile against them, and I totally get it. Why? If you're 2 and 10 on Spooderman, you might need a swap, but some players are like, nah, I'm not swapping you. It's just, I hate that. And I almost wish that in ranked, like, you could just like have 5 people vote and it just forces the person to swap, but that would make it even more toxic. The player would probably throw even harder, but I hate it. It's still a very big problem in the game, and I really hate it so much when like you're just begging for the person to go swap to support or play tank because like they're just doing terrible on DPS. It's specifically DPS players though. Another thing that could help out the game in terms of its life cycle is just keep on slamming new characters to actually hide all of the issues with the game, for people to constantly be like, oh, the new character, come back and play. This will actually help retention rate and keeping players interested throughout the life cycle of a season. And even though we're getting heroes way faster in this game than Overwatch, I still think that if you release way more heroes, because it seems like they're pumping out heroes a little bit faster than like, Overwatch, why can't we just crank this knob up to make more heroes? Because like, if you just play support and they have a new season, you're like, okay, well, the new thing is a new tank and a new DPS. Well, okay, well, I'm a support player, so it doesn't matter, right? Or strategist, whatever. You get the idea. Or if someone only plays tank, oh, and there's a new support and then there's a new DPS, like you don't really get any good feels other than like, oh, what do I have to deal against, right? But I think if they just release one support, or I was gonna say support, one strategist, one vanguard, and one duelist, basically one hero in each category for every single season, that way every single role gets to be like, ooh, I got a new thing to play around with. I think that would be really cool if they released one character in each role every season versus just one character. I also think that ranked inflation and deflation is the most annoying thing ever. Why are people then in Celestial and Eternity pushed down to like Platinum or Gold? Because again, maybe they don't play for an extended period of time, and you're looking at their stats and you're like, okay, how come on the enemy team, they get that player, but I got a guy that just peaked Platinum or Gold. Maybe it's a Smurf, I don't know. But I think that ranked inflation and deflation definitely exists in the game because it does want to push you up higher. That's just kind of how the game works. But I also think that the Ultron LTM mode was too long, as in like it takes too long. These LTM modes, I want to say they should be more casually like approachable, but then at the same time have depth to where like they have a rank system to climb. I think that that's good that they had Ultron's mode climbable, and it was like completely different. But if we look at the idea of like Overwatch's Stadium mode versus like the Ultron mode, I think that we could have actually gotten something way better, because a lot of people, they play the Ultron mode once and like, this takes way too long, hell no, I'm out. I think that they needed to make this mode like a 10-minute mode versus a half an hour, 45-minute mode, and then you would have actually maybe had a mode that could stay in the game forever and people would actually enjoy it. And also another thing, when you make like a game kind of in a sense where like there is some competitiveness to, and then you're like, oh, it's getting removed in like, next season or whatever, I think some people may not want to play it because it's going to get removed anyways. Why would I want to learn and grind it, right? So I think that that could also be something to consider. And then I also think that there's definitely fatigue around any video game that lasts like a very long time. Like people are just kind of tired of the game, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the game is like bad. It just means that people are kind of tired of the game and they go play another game, they kind of come back. I do that all the time with Fortnite. But I think this is the most important thing that really makes people quit, is that EOMM that I was talking about. I hate that. That is one of the worst feeling things ever to run into, where again, you just feel like this game is impossible to win. And I think that is very, very evident in this game and on a lot of different video games, where even Overwatch admits to this. They'll say like you were match favored, or like favored team or whatever they call it, and you get less or more points, expected win. What do you mean this is expected win? Like Overwatch at least admits it right out the gate, with some of the games. But with Marvel Rivals, it doesn't tell you that, oh, you were expected to win this game. But even then, if you're playing competitive game, this is supposed to match you up with equal skill level. Why is there a favored team, or a team that like is kind of expected to win? The reason why is all these little algorithms try to keep you in the game. I hate that. Another thing that I think is really rough in Rivals in general is that there are hard to win with certain comps versus other games. And I'll give you an example here. So if your team's tanks are Thor and Penny Parker, but the enemy teams are Magneto Emma, you basically lost at the start. and that's kind of a frustrating feeling. Sure, 1 in 100 chances maybe you can actually get the dub, but I think like that is a big issue with the game. Another example that like if your healers are, or support strategists, whatever, Jeff and Adam, and the enemy team is Luna Rocket, who do you think is going to be winning majority of those fights when the DPS pop their ults? Yeah, the Jeff and Adam are going to be losing every single time because they have really no counterplay to it for the most part. Like, you could just easily pop a Luna, or a lot of the supports have this, like, no fun zone for 15 seconds, basically, and I hate that so much. That's a kind of a frustration thing that definitely does exist. Also, this is another issue with, especially for, I want to say, the strategist players, but also it can happen with Vanguard players if you're playing certain Vanguards. Like, there are certain Vanguards where it is really hard to feel like you're doing impactful plays. Like, for example, Magneto and Emma can definitely carry games, but majority of the time, if the DPS don't perform correct, I feel like it is terrible to play 2 out of the 3 roles. DPS is 100% the role that has the most impact on the game. In most scenarios, yes, if you're smurfing, you could hard carry on any character. I totally get that, right? But in a lot of cases, the players that win are actually usually whoever has the best DPS players. Check your scores if you guys haven't been looking at that. And I think DPS is the role that has 100% the most impact on the game, but it also is hard to play, so I kind of like that. Like, it is definitely the hardest role to play, without a doubt. Support is always the easiest to play at most games, and of course, yeah, you have to land your shots. If you're playing, Luna and you miss your, your ice, the freeze on a dive, you may just lose. But I still think that overall, in majority of circumstances, because let's be honest, it's not that common that you'll see like a very, very good Black Panther or even Spider-Man now because he lost the team up, that it is harder to pull off these like dive comps successfully. But at the same time, I want to say the main problem, especially on strategists, like sometimes it feels like no matter how good you play on the strategist, unless you're playing like Luna and getting a bunch of like kills, or you're playing Mantis or Adam and getting a bunch of kills, sometimes it just feels like, dude, my team is so dumb, I cannot out-heal the stupidness that exists. That's like the best way to put it, especially as someone that has actually backfilled a ton. But at the higher ranks, it's not usually as big of a deal, but if you're like trying to like, you do an unranked to GM or unranked to Celestial as some of the other characters, it can be kind of rough, especially if you're trying to do it on the strategist that doesn't have like good impact on damage, specifically things like Cloak or let's say Rocket. It's a lot harder to kind of like solo carry games, so to speak, and I think that like DPS just has the most impactful role, and then like next would be definitely in the Vanguard or tank, but it's just really hard in general for the support players in general to feel like that they have like huge impact on the game, even though they definitely do with their ultimates. But again, your teammates sometimes are so dumb. It's one of the most frustrating things. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. So if they can address any of these NetEase, that would be awesome. But anyways, you guys can let me know your thoughts down below. But these are the main reasons why I think the game is overall dying. And let me know if you guys have any great suggestions for some of the things that I actually mentioned. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the rant/video. If you did, drop a like if you're new, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace out.